Lake Tahoe is a crown jewel of the Sierras. It is world-renowned for its crystal-clear water, its billionaire row cabins, and its breathtaking alpine vistas. But beneath that shimmering sapphire surface lies a cold, dark truth. Tahoe is one of the deepest lakes in North America, reaching depths of over 1,600 feet. At those depths, the light never reaches the bottom, and the temperature stays at a constant, bone-chilling 39 degrees. For decades, locals have whispered about what or who remains in those depths. There are stories of perfectly preserved bodies from the 1920s floating in the dark, held in place by the pressure. But long before the tourists and the luxury boats arrived, the Washoe people warned of something else, something living, a serpent, a guardian, something that doesn't just inhabit the lake, but owns it. Most call it Tahoe Tessie, a light-hearted name for a local myth. But in 2019, a missing persons case near Emerald Bay suggested that whatever is down there isn't a myth, and it's no longer staying at the bottom. On October 14th, 2019, 27-year-old Julian Reed rented a 14-foot aluminum fishing boat from a small marina near South Lake Tahoe. Julian was an experienced outdoorsman. He grew up on these waters and knew the moods of the lake better than most. He told his girlfriend he'd head toward the mouth of Emerald Bay to catch the evening rise, specifically mentioning a honey hole near Fanette Island. He promised to be back by sunset, even joking about bringing back a trophy-sized Mackinaw for dinner. His last text to her was a photo of the glass-calm water with the caption, "Too quiet out here. Feels like I'm the only person left on Earth." He never made it back. The boat was discovered the following morning, drifting 3 miles offshore, near the center of the lake, where the floor drops into an abyss. The engine was still idling in neutral, its fuel tank nearly dry. His fishing lines were still in their holders, lures untouched and trailing in the current. His wallet, keys, and cell phone were sitting neatly on the bench seat. To the Coast Guard, it looked like a standard man-overboard accident. Perhaps he stood up to cast, lost his balance, and the shock of the 40-degree water paralyzed him. But the details didn't fit. The lake was glass calm that night. No wind, no wakes. And when divers began sonar sweeps of the area, they found something that defied explanation. Every time the sonar pinger hit the 400-foot mark, it bounced back a massive solid shape moving directly beneath the search boat. It was over 60 feet long, moving with a slow, serpentine grace that no fish in Lake Tahoe could possibly possess. 3 days into the search, a volunteer deep-sea diver named Marcus Bell offered to descend. Marcus was a professional with over 2 decades of experience in high-altitude diving, equipped with a pressurized suit and a high-definition helmet camera. He descended nearly 300 feet into the twilight zone of the lake, where the blue of the water turns into a bruising, ink-like black. The pressure at that depth is immense, weighing down on the mind as much as the body. But Marcus remained calm, his breathing steady in the comms. The footage, later recovered by the family's legal team, is 10 minutes of oppressive silence. You see only what Marcus's powerful flashlight hits: silt, darkness, and the occasional flash of a stray trout. But as he nears a rock shelf near the bay's mouth, Marcus notices something. A long, smooth shape is coiled against the silt. It's too uniform to be a rock, too organic to be a sunken tree. It has a texture like wet slate or polished obsidian. The The camera becomes shaky as Marcus's breathing accelerates, the hiss whoosh of his regulator becoming a frantic staccato. He swims closer, reaching out a gloved hand toward the object, perhaps thinking it was a piece of the missing boat. Suddenly he freezes. The rock begins to shift. It's a slow, heavy movement that stirs up a massive cloud of silt, blacking out the camera for several agonizing seconds. As the dust clears, the flashlight hits it. An eye, massive, the size of a dinner plate, with a vertical reptilian pupil. It doesn't look like a fish's eye. It looks intelligent, ancient and calculating. It reflects the light with a terrifying golden shimmer, the iris swirling like molten brass. The eyelid, a thick, translucent membrane, slowly slides shut and then open again, as if the creature is just realizing Marcus is there. The footage cuts to static as a massive pressure wave hits Marcus, a physical force that nearly collapsed his suit. He resurfaced 8 minutes later, an impossibly fast ascent that should have killed him. He was found bobbing in the water, suffering from a mild case of the bends and screaming so loudly he could be heard across the bay. He kept repeating one thing to the paramedics while they hauled him onto the deck. It didn't attack, it didn't attack, it didn't attack. The mystery deepened 2 weeks later. A couple staying in a remote cabin on the western shore called 911 in a state of total panic at 2:30 a.m. They claimed they heard something as slapping against the side of the house, a wet, heavy sound, like a giant piece of meat being slammed against the wood. When officers arrived, the couple was barricaded in the bathroom, clutching a fireplace poker. Outside, the evidence was undeniable. In the soft mud leading from the water's edge to the cabin's porch, there were deep, wide grooves. They weren't footprints. They were drag marks, nearly 3 feet wide, as if a massive, muscular body had hauled itself out of the freezing water and onto the land. The husband, a retired biologist, refused to give a formal statement for months. When he finally spoke to a private investigator, his hands were still shaking. He described seeing a head rise above the deck railing. It was long, narrow, and dripping with weeds, the skin a mottled dark green that looked like bruised fruit. He said it didn't look like a monster from a movie. It didn't roar or snarl. It just breathed. He described the sound as a wet hiss, like air escaping a punctured lung. He looked into those golden eyes and saw 10,000 years of hunger. It wasn't interested in their cabin. It was looking back at the lake, as if it were making sure the territory was still its own. The final and most haunting piece of evidence came from Julian Reed's phone. It had been water damaged, but forensics managed to recover a single corrupted audio file recorded at 7:14 p.m. on the night he vanished. In the recording, you hear the calm water, then a massive splash, something heavy breaking the surface near the boat. Julian, whispering, trembling, "What the hell is that? Is that a log? No, it's moving. It's underneath the boat. Oh God, it's as long as the boat. It's glowing. Why is it glowing?" Then the sound changes. A low-frequency vibration starts, a sound so deep it distorts the microphone, a subsonic thrum that vibrates in the listener's very marrow. It's a wet, guttural noise that sounds like a cross between a crocodile's hiss and a whale's groan. It's the sound of something ancient and hungry. The boat begins to rock violently. You hear the metal of the hull groaning and buckling under pressure. Julian lets out a single jagged scream, followed by the sound of a massive surge of water entering the boat. Then silence. just the sound of the wind. But the recording doesn't end there. For another 30 seconds, there is the sound of something heavy dragging itself back into the water, and then a series of rhythmic clicking noises, almost like a language, before the file finally cuts to dead air. Officially, the case of Julian Reed was closed as an accidental drowning. The dive footage was dismissed by the authorities as a trick of the light and silt, and the audio was labeled environmental noise. But for those who live on the shores of Lake Tahoe year-round, the truth is much harder to ignore. The local authorities have since increased water safety patrols, but the locals notice they never go out alone, and they never go out after dark. They know that the lake never gives up its dead. They know that at the deepest points, the sonar still picks up shapes that shouldn't exist, moving through the underwater canyons that connect Tahoe to the smaller, even more isolated lakes in the region. They know that Tahoe Tessie isn't a mascot for postcards. She's a survivor of a prehistoric world. We are the ones out of place. We are the ones trespassing in a cathedral of water where we were never meant to be. So if you're ever out on the water after the sun goes down, and the lake becomes a mirror of the black sky, watch the wake behind your boat. If you see a ripple that doesn't match your engine's path, or if you feel a low hum vibrating through the floorboards, don't look down, because whatever lives in Lake Tahoe has been watching you since before you were born, and it knows exactly how far it is from the surface to the bottom. This has been The Wrong Door. Subscribe, or you might find yourself on the wrong side of the threshold.